Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 62. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, Dr. Norge on the CGS forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. We may come off like the Chris Farleys of podcasting, but no one delivers the depth and background research in the individual issues that we do. So says the sensei of the Whatnot Segulin. You know, it's funny. When I'm not doing the podcast, I'm trying to keep up to date on news. So I jump between forums, and there's a lot of forums that I'm a member of. There's a lot of them that I just browse and peruse to check and see what's going on. I came across a forum where they were commenting on an interview that we had. I'm not going to go too much into details about it because it's not something that upset me. The point that was made on there was that Jim and I sometimes come across and we have guests on, like Chris Farley in the famous sketch where he was interviewing Paul McCartney. Yes, there's a lot of element of truth to that. If you should listen to how we geek out about them when they're not on our show, we do the exact same thing. We're, as a podcast, the whole point of Raging Bullets is the fact that we geek out about our comics, and we're about promoting the books and what we're enjoying from them. Throughout my entire life, and now my co-host is kind of in that place as well. Throughout my entire life, the worst thing I could ever say about a comic book, and this is a true story, whether you believe me or not, the worst thing I could ever say about a comic book that I picked up was, it's a good comic, I probably won't read it again. And that's my stack. Every week when it comes in, I rip it open. I've got great books. I've got that good book that I enjoyed reading that. It was a good experience, but I probably won't revisit it again because I got a lot of great books that I'm going to read over and over again. That's what your comic stack should be. That's what you should look for. I see a lot of negativity around the net where people don't get that experience. And you know what? When we have guests on, it's about embracing that and about sharing what's been great about their book. You're going to hear a lot of connections to Tiny Titans #1. We have Art and Franco on, who are the creators of Tiny Titans, and we're going to get a chance to share. I was totally shocked with this book because this is one where I figured, it's an all-ages book. I'm going to be really thrilled because it's something from my classroom. But I connected with this book on a personal level in a way. It took me back to my childhood and reminded me a lot of my cartoons that I enjoyed growing up and comic strips that I read. This was a book that just connected with me in a very personal way. So I share a lot of those personal stories, not because I think my story is important, just because I think it offers people an opportunity to say, hey, wait a minute, I might want to check this book out because it might take me back to that place as well. So that's the point of those stories when you hear us geeking out about that type of thing. They were great guests, and we went off on a lot of tangents, and we got to talk a lot about Patrick the Wolf Boy that I ordered from Amazon.com based just on how much I enjoyed Tiny Titans. I have not had an opportunity to read Patrick the Wolf Boy yet, but this is something that I also encourage you. I found them on Amazon. I know they're available at all a lot of the bookstores that are online, comic shops. Check for this book. Patrick the Wolf Boy is another book of theirs you're going to want to read. But that's why we approach our guests and our interviews the way that we do. There are wonderful traditional interview podcasts out there, and the Chris Farley comment, I see the humor in it, and I see the reality of it as well, and can laugh about it. But by the same token, it would be like me saying the traditional interview podcasts are like the Inside the Actors Studio sketches from Saturday Night Live, or perhaps the Larry King sketches from Saturday Night Live. They make those guys look like total dolts, just like they would make us look like total dolts, but that's the point of Saturday Night Live. Yeah, there's a hint of truth in there, and I can accept that and laugh about it. But, it'd be like me saying that about traditional interview podcasts, which are absolutely amazing as well. The whole thing is very funny. Great opportunity for me to explain why we approach it the way we do, why we're not afraid to geek out when a guest is on, because we're going to do it when they're on or when they're not, so we might as well do it when they're here. That's our whole point of our show. So when you're listening to this, kind of get to that place. And what I'd like people to do when they walk away from the show, whenever Jim and I decide to eventually stop doing this, anybody who listens to the show, whether this is the only time you listen, or you listen every episode, or you listen to casually, however you do it, if you're listening to this show, try to find that stack of comics. Not necessarily the ones that I read, not necessarily the ones that Jim reads. Try to find that stack of comics where your worst comic that you're reading, whenever you pick up your stack, is a good book that you might not read again. None of these people are coming off on the internet. I'm reading these forum threads where people are saying, oh, that was awful, this was awful. I'm like, what books are you reading? How are you picking your stack with the amount of comics out there today? I am so baffled that people are having these horrible experiences with comics. We got a wonderful comic that we're going to share with you today in Tiny Titans. Originally, we were going to have another additional segment on this one. As with any Skype interview that I do where we have guests on, I really do a lot of editing on those. If you notice on the regular show, when Jim and I are just talking, I don't edit it as much as I used to. I try to cut out any dead air, try to cut out any redundancies if I catch them. But Jim and I record those segments with the intention of, at this point in time, we know just how long it takes to put together interviews when we have guests on. So we record these with the intention of the fact that this segment is going to be kind of an isolated episode so that way you guys can enjoy that. We're going to be back this coming weekend on about Saturday or Sunday with another episode. We're going to be focusing on Countdown. I wanted this to kind of set on itself, and then we're going to have another small episode that's going to be coming up on the weekend. It's going to be a little bit longer probably than this one, focusing on Countdown. And then we're going to have, after that, we're jumping into a great episode where we're going to be doing a two-part look at New Frontier, the DC Comics New Frontier movie that just came out, and I'm reading the Absolute currently to be able to compare what's different from the movie and the Absolute, also to compare my experience because I watched the movie once, reading the Absolute. Jim has not read the New Frontier comic yet. Kind of compare the differences, and the differences perhaps in our experience with the film, being somebody who's read the original work and then watched the movie and then rewatched it again to kind of see if I'm making any, if I'm enjoying it any differently because of the original work. I will say that at this stage right now, I'm 75% done with the New Frontier Absolute. And I would highly recommend anybody, if you have New Frontier in any capacity, whether you have the original release or you have the the soft covers that came out, or if you have the Absolute edition, go back through, reread that, and watch the movie afterwards. I think you're going to get a lot more bang for it than you did the first time around, because it's an interesting experience to kind of bring all that media together and get some enjoyment out of that. We're going to have a two-part episode where we talk in depth about both of those works, focusing mainly on the movie, but there's no way I'm not going to be able to bring in things from that Absolute and my experience in reading that as we have that discussion. So that's going to be coming up. We also are going to be continuing our Raging Oscars with Wildstorm. I've actually just finished up my notes on Wildstorm. I had to update them because it's the 2000 Wildstorm books we're going to be looking at. And then after that, we're going to move on to Vertigo. So we've got that coming. We have a Legion episode that we're working on that's going to be coming up down the road. Where we're going to be talking about 1984 Legion of the Superheroes and the present-day Legion of the Superheroes. I'm trying to work out the logistics of that one so we can get that coming up soon. We also are going to be, Jim and I are going to, as I just mentioned, the New York Comic Cons. We're going to be doing a lot of chatting about comics there. And we have an episode that's going to be coming up where we're going to be talking about JLA Classified. We have Alan Pasalacqua joining us, who's the colorist on that book, and he is going to be chatting with us. Casually, we're going to chat about issue 49, straight on through the current run with Roger Stern and John Byrne that he's working with, two major legends. But issue 49 is a great one. If you haven't been picking up that book, it's very self-contained. So it's a great one if you want to just see what that book is all about. It reminds me a lot of Legends of the Dark Knight and books like that because each arc is contained, so you can jump on an arc at a time and grab that book. You don't have to feel like you have to, like, is this many issues in right now? Am I going to miss anything? No, they're done on an arc-by-arc basis, so you could easily jump on with issue 49 and 50 and jump on board those stories and join in our conversation. So that's Alan Pasalacqua. He's going to be joining us. We have so many things that we want to do and that we need to get done and need to get on the show that we're trying logistically to get them all done. Plus, we're trying to get caught up with Countdown to be done in time for Final Crisis #1. That's one of the reasons why we've been doing more frequent Countdown episodes, is because we're trying to get caught up with that series and really, hack it apart and take a look at the intricacies of the whole thing and our own feelings on it, because we want to be ready to launch for Final Crisis #1. So that way, when that series comes out, as each issue is released, we can do a big meaty episode on each issue and talk about this huge event that we've been waiting for over a year now. Jim, we are, as always, proud members of the Comic Book Podcasting Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Before I jump in the show, Jim, I want to mention, as always, the Hero for the Holidays drive. That was something that was started by the CPN. We're continuing to support the Hero Initiative. The Hero for Holidays drive is kind of long since over, but Hero is something that's just helping out those classic creators who just need that support, people who maybe for whatever reasons are having trouble finding that work nowadays. But these are the people that laid the foundation for the books and the characters that we are reading and enjoying today. And in many ways, a lot of, whether you read DC, Marvel, Independence, whatever, a lot of the creators today that are out there that we're following and supporting are people that were influenced by these wonderful creators. Whether it's just $3, price of an average comic book nowadays, send that over to the Hero Initiative. Or if you want to, do more than that, please consider it. Regularly pledge support to this because I firmly believe in it. I feel it's a great way to kind of give back to the creators directly who have, really kept this hobby my entire life, a part of my life. So I'm glad we can kind of talk about this and support it. Jim, I also want to talk about a website, librarybinding.com. They're a bookbinding business that has been in business since 1949, and they offer this great service for comic book collectors where they will take your comics and bind them. And we're talking about a true library binding where they're hardcover bound, and there's a lot of customization options. So I'm telling you right now, go to librarybinding.com, take a look at your options. What they offered to do for us was they offered to give us one free binding, with the purpose of being able to then talk about it on the show. So I am getting together right now some issues to send into them to have bound. And one of the things that I really like about this service in general is I got a lot of comic books that are singles that I'm going collection happy right now. And there's a lot of books that are singles that are special to me that have not been collected or have not been collected with all of the things I want in there. Like, for instance, there's some books that I really enjoy the letter columns on. And that supplemental material to me is worth holding on to the single issues. So I would love to have those bound because I'm actually shifting over quite a bit of my collection to trades and hardcovers because I want to reread this material, and I'm liking that particular format. It's just a personal preference for myself. So to have a company that will take some of those issues that maybe aren't collected the way that I wished they had been, and to put them together for me, especially if it's a crossover. Those are the things that I'm going to be glad that I'm going to be able to get together. But there's a lot of books that I have that are kind of oddball comics that maybe they were a series that didn't do so well, but I personally liked it. So I would like that collected and bound, and this is a service for me. I don't know, Jim, how you are. I know how you don't like having a mixture. I'm thinking of like my Strangers in Paradise set, for example. I have most of it in trade and hardcover. But I really got to a point in the series where I couldn't wait any longer for it, so I've got a good portion of it also in singles. So I was thinking, should I sell the remaining singles and get traded? But I'm actually thinking that may be what I send in.
Nice.
Because then I've got my whole collection bound, and I didn't have to go and rebuy trades. So I'm thinking that might be, it's kind of a cool way to do it, because I ended like at a weird point where it doesn't match a trade, if that makes sense. So I would have to overlap certain things that I buy. So now I can kind of have everything that I've got left in Strangers in Paradise nicely bound. And so I'm thinking that might be what I do. I just kind of talk myself into it. But I know you're a big one. You like either bound or unbound. You don't like a mixture within your particular series. So is there anything that you can think of that down the road you might want to bind?
They always talk about the Young Justice will never be traded. They say how if you want it bound, then do it yourself. So that's something when I finally eventually go around to getting that, I can probably see myself maybe binding that up.
Have you read that?
No, I haven't yet. It's still on my list of stuff to buy, but then I keep getting sidetracked. So
especially
maybe starting the cons coming up, I'll start picking up some of the Young Justice.
Especially considering that the Johns run of Titans is your Titans. They're the ones that you started off on. For me, it was Wolfman and Perez. Go all the way back to that. But the Johns run of Titans, seeing as that's the one that you started off with, Young Justice, because they're the characters that you like right from the Johns run.
Yeah. Yeah, I've read a couple of the trades from the the end of the Young Justice. I've read that trade because that led right into the Teen Titans. So I've read that and I have that, but I figured I'd like to own all of the Young Justice eventually. So that'd be something I could see.
Yeah, I think you're going to... I'm actually curious to see your experience when you actually get to read that, because the artwork was really cool on it, and I think it's something that you're going to find a lot of love for, because it really feels like a prequel to that Teen Titans series.
Cool. All
right, so that's librarybinding.com. Check that out, and we will... Actually, when we get that volume back, because I haven't actually gotten it together yet, when we get that volume back, we'll do a follow-up on our show talking about what that volume looks like, how we feel about it being bound that way. You can take a look at it, Jim, page through it, and discuss. Is this something that we want to continue pursuing at that point? I think it's really cool. They contacted us and said, we'd like to give you a free volume so you can talk about it on the show. And that's a great way to market it because we'll actually have something concrete in our hands that we can talk about and discuss, how we feel about this whole process. And I think I actually have decided. I think I'm probably going to do my Strangers in Paradise because I want that all bound. So it kind of makes sense to finish that off that way. Jim, we want to remind everyone to check out RagingBullets.com. We have always news where the show is headed, top bullets of the month. I've posted recently some Where's What Not Nows that are really, really funny. There's Funny Bullets by Squatch, which is great. That's a listener's chance to basically take your favorite comic panels and come up with your own dialogue for it. So this is a chance for you to show some of your wit. So if you haven't had a chance to participate in Funny Bullets, Jeff Squatch Griner from the Tome Podcast always puts that together. I know the one that he's got running right now that he's looking for entries for is the Hostess ad featuring the Joker. So if you haven't had a chance to participate, go ahead and send something to Jeff Squatch Griner from the Tome Podcast about that. It's at funnybullets@gmail.com. We have Love and Capes, the webcomic by Tom Zoller. Bullet points reviews, sketches, columns by listeners, and so much more. I've been thinking about Top Bullets, and because we've been doing the Raging Oscars gradually, we haven't had a chance to get to Top Bullets. So I'm thinking we're going to save that to April, only because of the fact that right now we've got so much on our plate. So I don't know what your thoughts are about that, but I don't know when we would fit it in otherwise. So I think in April, we'll just say we're going to start it back up again. Any of the listener content that has been sent in prior to that, we will include on that episode.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually...
So they can continue emailing you at senseiofwhatnot@gmail.com, is that right?
Yes. Send in your top 5, your picks, maybe a little something about the titles, and we'll talk about them. We'll throw out Sean's and mine. And it's senseiofwhatnot@gmail.com.
So, Jim, what kind of podcast are we?
Well, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if you haven't read something we're going over, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Our next segment is going to be Tiny Titans #1. Art Baltazar and Franco are the creators. Jan Jones is the editor. Stephanie Buscema is the assistant editor. And the letterer is Nick J. Napolitano. Welcoming to the show, of course, creators of this book, Art and Franco. Guys, welcome to Raging Bullets. And I'm really excited because this is our first time getting to talk to anybody in the all-ages realm with the new Johnny DC launch. So it's really exciting to have you guys on the show to talk about this book.
Oh, yes, thanks, man.
It's awesome to be on the show. Thank you, sir.
So I want to start off just right away as we get into this, just chatting about the cover. You've got Donna Troy jumping rope, Aqualad with this great little fishbowl motif going on. Not only did it show like a who's who of the Titans, but it showed that you guys want to bring in as many characters as possible, and that you understand their personalities and are having a lot of fun with that. Raven meditating in the back was a great example of that. How did that cover come about? I mean, it seemed like kind of an homage almost to the Wolfman and Perez stuff.
Yeah, I was trying to draw Wolfman and Perez's #1 cover, but I wanted to put all the guys on there. I wanted to make sure that Beast Boy wasn't transforming into an animal, because it always bugged me when covers only had him as like a frog or a worm or something. But I wanted him to show the real Beast Boy, and then so that's pretty much like how all of the #1 covers look. They're all like ready for action.
Yeah, because it is that, like, you see the lineup jumping out right away, and it just, right away to me, it did say, though, because you guys were really pulling both Donna Troy and Cassie, the current Wonder Girl, in there, it's great to see that you're kind of pulling from various eras of Titans versus having to stick to just what the current group is, which is nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we get to use the whole entire Titan universe. Anyone who's ever been there or who exists now or could eventually end up in the Tiny Titans.
Did you guys each have like a favorite Titan or some favorite Titans that you're like, I hope we get to put these guys in the book? Or is it just nice having the whole gambit to use?
It's cool. I think all of them are our favorites. I can't pick one. I know Robin's a constant guy. Yeah. Yeah, Robin rocks.
They're all our favorites. We used to read them all the time.
Yeah, thanks for throwing in Ravenger. That was cool. I do like seeing Rose in Tiny Titans. I'm like, she's gonna get in a little bit of chaos and or a little trouble. So I'm looking forward to some of that stuff.
Oh, cool. I got a lot of sketches before she made her way in the comic. I had a bunch of different sketches of her with her mask on and with it off. With her mask on, she looks like a real sinister little bad girl, you know. So I figured, I don't know if we should call her Ravenger, but I like naming the kids after their names, like Rose, and like how Batgirl's Barbara Gordon, but she's not even called Batgirl, she's just Barbara and stuff like that. I think it's really cool.
The book opens with just this great bit about Green Arrow and Speedy. Ollie's admonishing Roy for taking an apple and his bow to school, saying that he doesn't need props for his William Tell report. And I'm a school teacher, so this worked for me on like so many levels. I teach third graders. My kids sneak stuff in their book bags all the time. This week it was Super Balls. Last week it was the Tamagotchi-style virtual pets. And it just really grabbed me from page one. What theme are you guys going for with this book? Like, for readers who haven't had a chance, a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, picked up this book already, knowing that we were going to be talking about it. But for the listeners that maybe haven't had a chance to pick this up yet, and we want to get them to say, "Hey, grab issue 2." What kind of theme are you guys going for as this series goes on?
I think we were approached to write mostly a kids book, and that came about from the past work that we've done. So I think a lot of it is based on, what Art and I have either done as kids, or we have kids of our own. And a lot of that stuff stems from that. And also just our depraved minds that, just kind of delve into this adolescence that we're still in, pretty much.
Yeah, plus they told us over and over that the DC people love Patrick the Wolf Boy, other book that we've been publishing for years and years. And they said to make it just like Patrick the Wolf Boy, but with their characters. So that was really cool. And that's like all of a sudden it got real easy, real simple to come up with. It's like we've been working this way all along, and now you get permission to just put other characters in there that are that we know anyway. We know probably better than we know our own characters. And so it was kind of like real easy. The transition was easy, just to put them in situations that we had our characters in already. And so, like, the themes, as far as like a theme, maybe I could say maybe the first issue is more like they're in school, and then by the time I think the second issue is maybe they're on the playground. So it's all kids theme stuff, but it's more like we write what we know, we draw what we know, and whatever makes us laugh, that's what goes in the book. Oh, yeah, man.
I'm wondering, are we ever going to see, like, some of the adult heroes, like Robin has a bad day at school and is admonished by the principal, so Batman has to come in and meet the principal, or stuff like that?
Yeah, Batman's in issue 3.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I was real happy that I finally got to draw Batman in a real appearance, and not just like a mention of him or him on a comic book cover, but he's actually in the story. So that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it was awesome. I called Franco right when I said, "Hey, you know what?" He goes, "What?" "I just drew Batman in the DC comic." And he went, "Oh man, what? Oh." So that was pretty cool.
That is kind of the nice thing about this book being in its own universe, is that you guys have a lot of freedom because you're not tied down to worrying about what the continuity's like in other books. Because you can do stuff like bring in Batman, bring in Ollie Queen, and play with all these different Titans characters within your title, because you don't have to worry about, like, geez, am I going to conflict with what this guy's doing over here or something like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's some things we're not allowed to do. We tried to convince Dan DiDio to let us do, like, 53 alternate versions of these Tiny Titans, but he wouldn't let us.
I made a mistake one time in saying, someone asked me what world was the Tiny Titans on, and I told them it was Earth 53. And it started some landslide of forum things going on. So I had like, oh, well, but now I just told you on the radio. So I guess we're back to starting rumors. But the Tiny Titans is a TV show in the DC universe, and it was Bart's and Robin's favorite cartoon. And they in issue 50 of Teen Titans, they were watching there's one shot where they're watching the Tiny Titans on TV, but that was really cool.
Well, we saw you guys at one of the convention panels, and you were talking about that. That right away grabbed me. That it was the favorite TV show of the Titans characters. That grabbed me. That hook grabbed me right away with it. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, right on.
These characters feel like something, to me, out of like Pixar or a little bit of Disney's. I don't know if you guys saw Disney's Recess cartoon. There's like something for everyone with like humorous nods for like adults and teens. I expected to walk into this because, like you said, it was definitely, promoted as a book for the kids, and that's the theme for it. But for me, very similar to books like stories like Calvin and Hobbes and things like that, these characters were like immediately endearing to me. I had a really good time with this.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
thank
cool.
you.
One of the things I throw around the show a lot is I call certain titles my palate cleansers, where it's just something I can read, I can have fun with, but it's not so where I have to focus on continuity, what's going on here. This is one of those palate cleansers. This was just, you pick it up, it's a fun read. There was a bunch of times where I'm sitting there and I'm just like chuckling going, yeah, this is funny. It's a good read, it's enjoyable. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, sir. Thank you.
That's our whole lives is palate cleansers. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We sit around and laugh all the time.
Our goal is to make the book that once you get in your car or on your way home on the bus, that you want to take it out of your bag first and see what's going on.
I've read through this 3 times already.
I've been reading it over and over myself.
I love the bits as it continues on and you hit Sidekick City Elementary.
Yeah.
There's this really fun bit where the kids are talking about the strict new principal called the Terminator. And there's Roy leaning over and whispering to Robin. My buddy's dad was our high school principal. So Rose's reaction hit this note with me. So when you guys were talking about how you pulled from your own experiences, one of the nice things about doing that as creators is while you're making an accessible book for everybody, it is for everybody because I think we all can look back to our childhood with this title and see those little moments where we remember snickering to the friend next to us or something like that. Throughout this book, there's moments like that where I connected to this book on a very personal level, which was a lot of fun for me.
We get to do fun stuff like, we were talking about putting Slade in there, and then, Art described it to me. He goes, I'm going to draw him with his costume, but he's going to have a blazer on over his costume. And I just thought that was hysterical. I mean, you see this guy walking in full costume, but he's got, a blazer and a jacket, and, he's got a jacket and tie on. He just looks ridiculous in the outfit, but he's menacing at the same time,
Like only Slade can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I put the stripes on his coat. Like Bugs Bunny style. Like, no matter how the character moves, the lines always stay the same. So that's kind of how his stripes are on his coat.
I think the only thing that's more scary than that is when Trigon shows up.
Yeah.
As the substitute.
Yeah, that was outstanding, man.
Well, you got to wait till you see Trigon getting Raven ready for school in the morning. That's coming up down the road.
Yeah, you're gonna find out why. You're gonna find out why she wears that bow in her hair and the little flower on her cape.
That actually brings me to a question. Did you guys find yourselves having to pull back the inside jokes? Because you've got this really nice balance going in the book of things that are there for people who are DC fans, but it's, like I said, one of the goals is to have this book with something for everybody. So it's got like this all ages feel. Were there things that you were like putting in, you're like, well, we can't go too far with that because we want to make sure that a new reader will understand what we're doing? Or did this just kind of flow naturally? Because it really does have a very nice balance where I would have no hesitation giving this to my kids at school. And I'm begging DC right now, if anybody listens to this, that I would love to see this collected and traded format, because for teachers, to have a trade in my classroom versus the single issues, it will last so much longer. And I will buy this for my classroom because the kids would have a field day with this book.
Oh, yeah, man. We wrote it just about what we know about Titans. And after writing it, I know I looked back at it too and wondered if there were too many inside jokes. But then we didn't really change anything as we were going. We just kept writing and writing, and that's how everything ended up coming out. So, I mean, even we got more stuff going on, like Nightwing shows up eventually, and so does Slade's team of Titans, too. The evil Titans that he created.
Starfire's sister and all those guys. I mean, it's just, I think we just write for us, really, but we're Titans fans, too. I mean, I think that's a big distinction, is that we really are Titans fans. I've been reading it for years and years and years and years, so we really know the characters pretty well, and we're writing for kids, but that I think that's the way it works, is we're writing for kids, but that Teen Titan stuff keeps creeping in there, and that's what makes it a good balance.
Even when Titans 50 came out, and we saw Supergirl and Blue Beetle on the cover, we were so excited because now there's 2 more characters we can put in the book.
So you guys have got to be calling up the writers of the main books and just say, hey, keep changing it up.
We did. We had dinner with Sean McKeever once, and I told him, yo, put as many people in there as you can.
I like when the Titans in a regular series, they fought the Titans from the future, and Lex Luthor made his own team. There was a whole bunch of characters flying around like Stargirl, and I think there was Captain Marvel Jr. was in there.
Yes.
So, I was excited. I said, oh, Stargirl's in there. All right. That's one we didn't know we could use.
I enjoyed things like the Beast Boy and the puppy segment because he wants to buy this new puppy, but then the dog is bored. So he gets this idea to entertain him. You know, he throws a stick first, changes into a bird, then the cat, then the bunny. Nothing seems to work. So he gets this great idea. He changes into a puppy and the two run off together. It was just a short little sweet segment. And that's one of the things. How do you decide on the length for each sequence? Because, again, that's another area where nothing went on too long or too short. I think of things like Saturday Night Live. My favorite sketches in Saturday Night Live are when they know to, like, not drag it on too long and keep it, like, short and sweet.
Yep.
And I was thinking that segment, I'm like, that was short and sweet. It was really nice, had a lot of, it moved along really fast, and it was very colorful. How do you gauge those segment lengths?
Well, I got to tell you, actually, that was a true story. That actually happened to Art one afternoon.
Yeah. It hurts transforming into a bird, too. The beak has to come out of you and everything. It hurts.
Well, it's great, though. Then you can look in the mirror when you're drawing and stuff like that, so it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, do it animated style, growl at yourself. But
He had a hard time holding the pencil in his paw.
Yeah.
Well,
but our stories like that, like Beast Boy's story, for instance, that could start out as like a sentence, and then once I start drawing stuff, I draw stuff just panel and panel, like little thumbnails, and then if there could be like 50 thumbnails for one little story, but then it's time where I gotta edit it down myself, so it just makes sense, so I don't fall into the Saturday Night Live trap, and then So that's,
yeah, and also what happens sometimes is we'll come up with the end of the joke, like the payoff of the joke first, and then we'll like work backwards to get to that. So I think timing wise that kind of helps us out too, because we know what the punchline is going to be before we write the joke.
Yeah,
which is great because then you're not along the way trying to figure that out and then drag it out too long because you don't know where it's going. And then a lot
of times we'll break it up and make like 3 strips out of that one. Like if it's too long, we'll make it like if it's Beast Boy and his puppy and it was much longer, we could have made him doing other things with his puppy throughout the issue just to make up. Too long, we'll make it into 3 jokes sometimes. Oh yeah, man.
Have you caught yourself, like, you start coming up with an idea, then you're like, maybe we shouldn't have this for the Tiny Titans, whether it's too complicated or something that'll just be wrong for a kid's book. Do you guys have that problems, or is it...
No, wait, man, we're all sugar and spice and everything nice. So.
Yeah, we had to take the fishnet stockings out of there a few times,
That wasn't one of the changes, was it?
At least you didn't see that one.
This leads right into one of my favorite segments in the book. That Speedy quiz was probably my favorite section because Robin's asking if his name means that he can run fast, which would make logical sense. Your name's Speedy and all that. And he just says he shoots tricks arrows, and you get this like uncomfortable silence. Then Robin jumps to the same conversation with Kid Flash. And it was so funny because I started thinking to myself, why is he named Speedy instead of Kid Arrow? And I started thinking about comic history, started thinking about Robin's name. I really thought too long about this. And the fact that he doesn't, like Robin, I'm thinking, well, he doesn't fly like a bird. So who's he?
You got to keep an eye out for that Robin thing that's coming up because it'll come up soon. But I remember that because it was we were talking about it, and I remember we had a couple of different possible endings for it. And then at one point I said to Art, I said, turn around, and Art just responds, yep, and that's it. And that kind of stuck. It made us laugh, so we're like, all right, that's the ending of that one.
And if this ever becomes animated, I really, really intend it. It's hard to write it as Kid Flash in the comic, but if it's animated, I want him to talk real fast. Like He goes, hey guys, what are you doing? You guys bored today? Let's go eat lunch. Come on, I want a burger. I'm really hungry. Let's go. That's how he talks, real fast. But it's hard to do that. I tried to write that in the comic like that, where all the words smashed together, but there was no spaces, and it kind of wasn't reading right. But if it's ever animated, I want him to be like the little kid who's all wired on Red Bull, talking real fast all the time.
It was so funny, too, when you just said animated. Further in my notes, one of the things I said was, this reminds me so much of classic Warner Brothers cartoons. The half-hour program, I remember watching as a kid where, it'd be Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck cartoon, maybe something with Elmer Fudd or Tweety and Sylvester. The segments, the way that they were broken up, reminded me very much of how those classic animated programs went. And this would translate so well over to a cartoon. Because of that nature, it moves at a really nice pace for that style.
Oh, thanks, man. We're trying real hard. Real hard we're trying.
I love that Titans Tower is a treehouse. Yeah. The girls are playing with Barb dolls, and a Barb Gordon doll is brought into the mix, which leads them to wonder why she isn't on the team.
Yeah.
Then they go to Robin for her phone number, which is, again, a classic nod to Thought Balloons about the crush that he has on her. Classic nod to DC history. It's just a fun-looking world. I love the art as they flew by the comics and the toy shop, past the candy shop. It's a cartoon-style universe. And I want to see this branch up, not even just into that, web animation, a video games, or something similar, because it really lends itself to that type of environment quite easily. Because I walked in thinking to myself, I'm like, is this book going to be for me? I was so pleasantly surprised. And I got to give a shout out to JD74 on our forums. He's the one that interviewed you guys for, was it the Wizard website?
Yeah, Wizard, yeah.
And he shot me an email and just said, you know what, you guys have got to interview these guys. And I said, well, I want to read the book first, because I had already pre-ordered it because I got so excited from the convention panel for it. But I wanted to wait, and I told you guys when I shot the email that I wanted to wait till after the first issue was released, because we're a spoiler podcast. So people, when they listen to our show, kind of expect that we're going to dive heavy into what actually happened in the books. And I said, I'd really like to, for people that may have dismissed this because they consider it kids material because of Johnny DC.
Yeah.
I enjoy classic comic strips and all that so much that are all ages fair. And this has got that vibe for me, but the plus is, just what you guys said, Titans fans are going to love this book because there's so many different classic nods in here.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah,
we mixed Teen Titans with the old Dell comics, and that's what we shook it up and poured it on some paper, and that's what it looks like.
The love interest of Dick Grayson from the classic Titans series have this moment where they kind of deny their interest in him, but you can tell there's a little something more there, and I'm anxious to see where that goes along the way. But then Plasmus.
Well, Batgirl thought he was cute.
I love that guy.
He causes the ice cream to melt, and there's this cute moment with Bumblebee where she comes in and offers him a lollipop. And I like the fact, because it was immediately the heroes are jumping into action. His ice cream's melting, he's crying. This is the crisis. We're going to solve it.
They saved the day. Yes.
And they did. It was great.
They're superheroes. Come on, man.
But the best part was it didn't stop there, because everyone turns back and gives her these strange looks.
Well, wouldn't you? Come on.
He's a big, pink, gooey guy.
And she says, well, yeah, but not as cute as Robin. There they are. They're all happy again.
I thought their favorite color was pink anyway, so you can't blame her. He's kind of cute.
Yeah, he is. And he's
He's
squishy.
like a big stuffed animal.
I bet he feels warm,
The girls in my classroom would have had her for lunch if she made that comment. But who doesn't love a sub? Because this led right into that.
Cool.
Kids know the rules are different. They can behave a little differently, sneak things that they normally couldn't. We've all been there. I remember when subs came in, I'm like, yes! Well, what happens when that subs turns out to be Trigon, Dad of Raven, and the source of not only another embarrassing moment, but I'm not messing with this dude.
And he's real happy and creepy at substitute. It's a demon from another dimension.
Creepiest character. He's going to be the creepiest character we have, because we're real happy and real demonic at the same time.
Wait, and in fairness, in contrast to Plasmus does look very cuddly.
Yeah, he's not happy. Yeah. He's on the cover of issue 2 with his lollipop stuff, if you see him in issue 2.
That was so consistent with this book, though, because over and over again I related it back to events if I was still back in school. Not just because I'm a teacher, but, we all have fond memories of elementary relationships, and these are things that are so easy to connect with in this book. Our Mr. Trigon was Sister Marion. When I was in elementary school, she would go out of her way to embarrass you. Her big thing was memorization. You had to memorize prayers, sacraments, etc. for homework. As a punishment, if you didn't study enough, she would make you stand in front of the room saying things you were supposed to have memorized over and over again, but how are you supposed to do that if you didn't memorize them? But I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, Trigon's Sister Marion. That was the great thing about this book, because that was my experience reading this, and I encourage any...
Did you have habit flashbacks, Did you imagine Trigon in, like, a nun's outfit?
I wasn't thinking Trigon dress up, but...
Did you say any prayers while you were reading it?
No, I didn't go that far with it.
I banish thee back to hell. Oh, sorry.
That creepy image did enter my head now, though, thanks.
There you go. You know what's even worse? It's going to stay with you for weeks, too.
It probably will.
Especially since I'm going to keep reminding him of it.
Art will show you a picture of Trigon in a nun's outfit and send it to you.
Show him a big ruler. The ugly stick.
She had a rosary on the side that used to clang on her leg, too. I remember every single thing I ever learned from her, but I hated her. But I got to give her credit. I remember every single thing I learned. But it was totally, and I urge people to do that. If you read issue number 1 of Tiny Titans and you didn't have that chance to make these connections, go back and reread it again.
Buy 2 copies.
That's true. We know one for each hand. But it's definitely one of those books where if you missed this book, you didn't have a chance to pick it up. It really was so nice and fluid how it connected with those. And I definitely got the fact that you guys were going for past memories of your own.
We're on a mission from God.
You're the Blues Brothers of the DCU.
This is better than therapy, man, and they pay us. It's awesome.
This leads me to my second favorite segment, where the question is finally asked by the boys. Cassie, why do you dress the way you do? And I'm a big fan of the current Wonder Girl. I really am. Part of her charm is her look. But I loved the guys asking her question. Peer pressure kicks in, so she changes her costume, makes it more Amazon-like, only to find the boys dressing like she does with the jeans and commenting what a great fashion sense it is, and how comfortable. While she looks silly once again, the girl can't win. And I loved
another
it.
True story. Again, another true story. That actually happened to me.
You dressed up in that outfit?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wore a helmet.
Before you send me the Trigon pic, can you send me that one? That might get that out of my head.
That'll be a nightmare, sure. I'm like 6'3", and I got a lot of hair.
You still have that skirt with the stars on it, so I can send you a photo. I think it's on his MySpace page. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was going to say it's on my MySpace.
My dad read that part, and he told me his favorite part was when the kids were telling him, "Hey, you need the skirt with the stars, and maybe a cape." And Cyborg says, "And I think you need a mask too." He went, "Ooh." Like, what? That was funny.
The book ends off with a couple of really cool things. There's this fun maze that took me back to the puzzle books from my childhood. Help Beast Boy find the dog that he bought in the earlier segment. I was thinking there was that nice bookended art piece with the team revving up for the next issue that I really can't wait to read. But the art reminds me a lot of what I liked about, as I mentioned, Calvin and Hobbes before, things like Charlie Brown. They're characters that right away, and that's the great thing. As a comic fan, I've loved the Titans. So to see these characters drawn in this endearing fashion and presented in this way, and knowing that it's just it's a nice little, like Jim said it best, a palate cleanser. It's one of those books. A lot of times, a lot of our listeners on the show talk about the fact that there's so many books they're reading right now with continuity that, a lot of times you want just that one book that you can read. This fits into those categories. It's a great book that you can just pick up. It's immediately accessible. It's got enough superhero nods for longtime fans. There's humor in it. It's a lot of fun. And like I said, I really liked the pacing of the segments. I didn't know if this was going to be one story in the issue or if there were going to be multiple segments. And it's great because you guys have a lot of freedom to pace as many segments as you need in the book, depending on what you're going for with that, like you said, with that particular joke or that particular storyline or whatever you're doing at that point. I like the freedom that you guys have with this book, and I'm really anxious for issue 2 because I really enjoyed, and it was such a surprise, issue 1 to me, how much I enjoyed it. I knew I'd like it.
I guess this would be a bad time to tell you about the 12-part crossover we have with every other issue.
Nice.
Yeah, the next issue, countdown number 4. You got to recount on number 4 first.
This is one of the Earths, isn't it?
This Earth 75.
When people read this book, as creators, and whether kids or anybody who's reading this book, what would you like them to walk away from? Like, what do you want them thinking?
Well, I want them to walk away saying, where can I get the next one? Or when's it come out? I had a little girl ask me that on the day of the book signing. I was when the book came out on Wednesday, I was at a comic shop signing, and the first question she asked, when's issue 2 coming out? This one just been out like 5 hours. I said, about a month from now. She went, Daddy, that's a long time. That was kind of cool.
What a nice compliment, though.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Your target audience, especially with kids you're competing with today, they've got so many different things to video games and TV and all that. To have a child be able to grab the book and just say, I want more. And I can see that easily because this will do very well in my classroom for the kids. I know that my kids will eat this up because I've been getting more and more comics for my classroom. And actually, before we end this segment, I want to talk a little bit about Patrick the Wolf Boy as well. Even though we're a DC podcast mainly, I want to talk about that because I was checking out your site and I saw that there's a lot of collected editions of Patrick the Wolf Boy.
Yep. Oh, yeah, man. There's a whole bunch. We did.
I've been doing that one for years. Yeah. That gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling, too.
Yeah, he came out in September 2000. So he's been around. He'll be 8 years old in September this year. I was going to say, we collected 2 giant-sized volumes on our own, and we had 4 digest volumes from Devil's Due that we, and most of them, like issue 3, or volume 3 and volume 4, have lots of new stuff. So we've been publishing I think we had at one point like 18 or 20 comics, just Patrick the Wolf Boy. So I think we'll figure 4 volumes at 144 pages each. That's how many Patrick stories we had. So it's
yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of books, a lot of Patrick books, but the thing to remember, and the thing that when I look back on it, impresses me a little bit too, is we both had day jobs when we were doing those, and people would ask us all the time, well, how come it's not a monthly book? And I'm like, well, because it's real hard to do when it's not your real job, So it was just like a love of the medium and the love of comics. That's why we do it.
Yeah, I would have to quit jobs because they wouldn't give me the days off to go to a convention, and it was more important for me to finish the comic and go to a convention rather than go back to work. So then I would just come back from the show and hopefully I have enough money to survive until I got to go get a job again. And that's how it would work for about 5 or 6 years. That's the way life was.
What a great story, though, because it just shows that you hear these stories a lot of times and you don't hear people getting the payoff. In this case, not only is Patrick a success, but you guys are now you're with DC. You're launching your own title that they sought you out to launch because they just liked your style and all that. How cool is that you got to tailor make your own book? Because this book it's got a lot of personality.
Oh, thanks, man.
It's awesome. It's the best feeling in the world. I mean, when I call up Art and when we write stories and stuff like that, like every time we talk, like halfway through the conversation, one of us will go, "Hey, man, can you believe we're doing this?" Because it's awesome.
Let's call somebody and tell them.
Yeah, we're writing DC characters. I mean, these are characters that we grew up with. When I was a little kid, I was reading this stuff, and it's just like it's just like the most amazing thing in the world to me. I'm on cloud 9.
Yeah, what was really cool too. Yeah, every time I draw a new guy, I call Franco, and I was drawing Supergirl, and I just said, just me drawing Supergirl was just like regular, just drawing another character, but drawing the Superman S on her shirt, that's like, wow, this is my version of the Superman S. So that's what's cool about the whole thing is I got to draw the real S rather than just some cute little girl with blonde hair. You know, so that's the part that gave me the chills. I finished coloring her S, the yellow and red. You know, that's when I had to call my brother. Hey, guess what I just did? Yeah,
cool, man.
A lot of our listeners commented. It was a couple months ago. We do a listener rant thread where we get a lot of listener interaction, and a lot of our listeners commented on the fact that they've got kids, or they've got nieces or nephews, or they've got brothers or sisters, you know, who are younger, that they want to introduce to comics, but they haven't been able to find those comics that they can do that with, where they can enjoy them with them. And that is the nice thing about this book is it's a great book for everybody. It's a fun book. You can sit down, you know, with your child, with your niece or nephew, with, you know, your younger brother or sister, and enjoy this book. There's a little something in there for both. It reminds me of like movies like Shrek and things like that, where, you know, there's jokes for the adults, there's jokes for the teens, but there's also things in there for the little kids, and it's kind of an everybody book, which is nice because it's meant to be. I think this is a book that's meant to be shared, and that's what I really like about it.
I gotta tell you this story. And a couple of years ago, we were at a convention, and you know, this was a Patrick book. We had a grandfather. He was there with his grandkids at a comic convention. I don't remember where it was, but he wound up buying a couple of Patrick books because he said, this looks like something I can read with them. He took them back and he read them with his grandkids over breakfast. He came back and told us this story, and he just wanted to shake our hands and thank us for making a book that he could read together with his grandkids that he knew was fun, funny. There wasn't anything bad in it. And he had tears in his eyes. And, you know, I'm a big guy. I'm like 6'3", and unless I get hit in a special place, I don't cry usually. But, he like brought me to tears almost. And I was like, you know, this is really what it's about for us. And you know, we do it because we love doing it. But then when we get reactions like that, you know, I tell Art, how can we not keep going when you get just one reaction like that?
This week I just got a little girl, I forget her name, and I wish I had her friend, but she did a whole Tiny Titans issue 2, and she already drew it all. So now we're at one issue ahead, at least, you know? So, she wrote stories with Beast Boy and Cyborg, and she put Cassie back in there, and she has like a little fashion show runway thing with all the girls in it, and it was really fun. And just like stuff like that keeps you going, because it's real strange. I know me and Franco talk about it all the time. It's like, it's weird that all this stuff we're doing, we're either drawing on the couch while we're watching TV, or drawing at the kitchen table, or at our art desk, or whatever. But all the stuff we make in our house gets out there and gets printed, and it shows up in a comic shop, and people come up to us and pull out one of our books from their bags. And it's just so amazing that the first reaction is, how'd you get that? You know? Yeah. So it's like, you didn't buy it from us. How'd you get it? And then, you know, they bought it in Seattle or Florida or Montana or wherever. And it's like just so amazing that the books are getting out there, but it doesn't feel like it. It's just something that we're doing at home.
You know what's so important about books like this, too, just coming from the teacher standpoint, a lot of my kids nowadays, they have trouble coming up with their own stories because a lot of the medium that they're exposed to does everything for them. It's really nice to have a medium like this where the kids can read stories and they can use their imagination and they can connect with these characters. I was totally eating up the story about the girl who drew the second issue, because that's what any comics that I have in my classroom, you know, I have like Jeff Smith's Bone and, you know, things like that I've been, you know, gradually gathering to build up a library in my room of comics that kids can go to, and this is going to go there. My kids draw comic strips in the classroom now, and they like doing that. It's a different way to teach sequential storytelling for the kids, which helps them, whether they're using art in it or, you know, they're just using prose all the way through. It's really great. So this book for me is, and Patrick the Wolf Boy is another one. It's patrickthewolfboy.com, and of course blindwolfstudios.com and artbaltazar.com are the...
Oh, yeah, man.
I'm going to make sure in the show notes to have your websites.
I got to tell you, I bring it to my classroom too, because I'm a teacher as well, but I bring them into my class where my kids enjoy it a lot. But I teach high school though, so they like it.
Do you find? See, that's just it. That's where I look at, and that's why I'm cautious to even call this kids material, because it really, to me, the best comic strips that I grew up with are the all ages material. Yeah, definitely the target audience for this was kids, but the great thing about good, solid kids material is anybody can read it. Anybody can enjoy it. There's the little kid in all of us. This is why animated movies do so well. This is why these, Pixar movies are doing so well when they go to the theater, because it's not just the kids that are going to see them. And this is that type of book. It fits into those categories. So I would encourage anybody who goes and enjoys those type of movies to pick this title up, because it gave me that feel. It fell into that place.
I told you before, Bugs Bunny is my favorite actor, and we grew up with that stuff. So, to me, when I was a little kid, Bugs Bunny wasn't a cartoon character. He was an actor. He was just really funny. But then now as I watch it as an adult, it's like totally different level of funny. And that's what we're really trying to get across, too, with both levels, for adults and for kids.
Yeah.
And I do think it's up to comic fans nowadays to, if you're that fan out there and you've been saying, where is the book that, I can give to a kid, make sure you pick up a couple copies and do give it to some of the kids that that are in your life, because a lot of this is the way to get books like this and keep getting them published, is by letting people know that these titles are out there. And do yourself a favor and make sure you page through it, because it was a real surprise for me, and I am subscribing to it every month. I'm on board for this book. This is a title for me.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah, man, that's awesome.
That's awesome, sir. They're giving it away for Free Comic Day, too.
Are you doing something for Free Comic Book Day?
They're printing up another Titans book. So that's awesome. Can't wait for that.
Now, is the Free Comic Book Day Titans book, is it going to be a reprint of one of the issues, or is it going to be a new story, or what? Or do you not know yet? Or?
I'm not sure positive, but it's probably going to... I know it's going to be a reprint, but I just don't know exactly what it is. I think it's number 1, but I'm not really sure. So I don't want to say it is, so I don't want to kill sales. It's number 1 now. But it won't.
Well, no. You know what? The great thing about the Free Comic Book Day book is, I know for myself, when I go into the shop and I grab the Free Comic Book Day books, and you're talking about if it's a reprint, that's great, because if I've already got it, I'm giving it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So that to me, there's nothing wrong with it being a reprint, because that's a book I'm like, okay, I've got my copy. That's the one, I'll give it to one of my students in class. I'll give it to, that's great. A niece and nephew, cousin, something like that. That's nothing wrong with that being a reprint at that point. It gets it to somebody else.
Yeah, and you could color in it too,
Yeah, man.
Draw stuff in cartons,
You got comic book fans everywhere cringing. You want them to do what?
I can't tell you how many because we've done Patrick for so many years that the book is in black and white. I can't tell you how many pages I've gotten back in the mail that were ripped out from the book and colored in and sent back to us.
Yeah.
So, we're not cringing at that at all. If you want to do it, go for it,
When kids want their book signed too, and it's all beaten up and colored on the inside, and that's cool. And I actually last summer over at a convention, one guy asked if I could color a page with crayons in the book. And I said, sure. So I colored. Now he says, here, now you're a colorist too. It's like, all right, finally. We're printed in color.
I've been a comic book fan my whole life, and my mom used to take my favorite comic books as a kid, and she worked at a clinic. So she had a copying machine there, so she'd run off a few pages and bring them home for me. And on the weekend, I would color them.
Awesome.
And so, it was because, those comics were in color, so I didn't have that option to color, because it wasn't black. It wasn't in black and white. But it was so great because they didn't have coloring books necessarily with all the characters I was reading. So it was fun to be able to take my time. Even as I got a little bit older, I started using colored pencils instead of crayons, so I could get the fine details in. And it was such a fun experience for me to do that. So I can totally see why kids would be geeking out at being able to color in the Patrick the Wolf Boy pages and enjoying that, because I had that similar experience.
Yeah, and then
at conventions, we still color with crayons. We'll do different crayons at conventions.
I remember growing up too, when all of a sudden Crayola made the markers. The Crayola markers were like the best thing in the world. And then I started coloring with those, and then I got into high school, and I went to high school for art class in high school, and I discovered the art stores had like other markers that had like brown and gray and pink, like pink markers and gray markers, and I thought that was amazing too. So there you go. I know where I was going with that, but we're talking about crayons and coloring. I'm just excited now. I already drew 3 pages on the phone here.
I love the fact, though, it's really nice because Jim and I are very enthusiastic about our comics. It's we enjoy everything we read every month, and it's really nice to feel the same enthusiasm from creators when we're hearing you talk about how excited you guys are creating these issues. It's infectious, and I want to see this traded. Specifically because I want to start seeing it at book fairs and things like that because I see a lot of things like Marvel Adventures and stuff like that at book fairs. I don't see a lot of DC material, and this is exactly the kind of book that needs to be collected in at book fairs because it's colorful, the characters immediately look like something that are eye-catching, and I could see kids flocking to this. The Bone books from Scholastic do very well at book fairs, so this is something that I would like to see. Besides just the single monthly issues, I would like to also see them collected and just to see this work everywhere because I think it's something that's a lot of fun and I think you guys are going to have a lot of success with it.
Oh, yeah, man, thanks.
Yeah, this was a real fun read. I was, I still am reading Titans Go. So I'm reading that and this, and it's...
Oh, yeah, me too.
Oh, yeah, it's a fun read. It's the same type of...
I read it every month with my son. We sit down and we read it right before he goes to bed, and it was really, really cool for me this month because Tiny Titans came out. And, you open it up, and he said, "Hey, Daddy, your name's in here." And that was just, like, awesome. It was like the best feeling in the world,
And for him to be able to look at and, like, say, hey, this is your work, that's cool.
I got 4 issues. I got the Perez Wolfman issue 1, and I got the new series issue 1, and Titans Go issue 1 and Tiny Titans issue 1, and I got them all. I want to get them all framed, but I just need I need to get Franco's autographs on Tiny Titans, and I need to get a few other guys' autographs on some of the other ones. But I got a spot on my wall all ready to go with 4 different types of comics, all number 1 Titans.
You know what? I am a big framed comics fan. I do the same thing that you're just mentioning. To me, that's like a recollection for me of my experience meeting creators whose work I really enjoyed. And I'm hoping to meet you guys at a convention where I can get Tiny Titans 1 signed as well. So we can. Oh, yeah. I'd like to get that on my wall as well.
We're going to be at MegaCon next weekend if you want to come by.
Oh, I wish I could. The next one I'm going to is New York.
Well, we'll be there.
Are you going to be at New York?
We can eat burgers too.
Yeah, man.
Oh, we've got a table at New York in the podcast arena. So we're going to be there. So we'll definitely make sure we stop over and check you guys out, and we can do a quick follow-up chat too. Is there anything else you guys want to promote? I wanted to make sure to get a shout out to your sites because I honestly got turned on to Patrick the Wolf Boy obviously from Tiny Titans. It was one of those things where I started reading up on who you guys are, and I wanted to get a little background information. As I started looking, I'm like, oh my gosh, these guys have been around doing all ages material for how long? And this is just something that's been totally under my radar. So I've been looking at the website, and when I saw collected editions, I want to say again, thank you so much for whatever it took for you guys to collect it, because as a teacher, and Franco, you'll attest to this, the collected editions for longevity purposes will hold up longer. And I want the books passed around in my room. I want the kids to be able to read them and say, yeah, that's cool. And so I'm going to be grabbing some Patrick the Wolf Boy from my room because, the kids are going to eat this up.
You can get Wolf Boy from our site or Amazon, I know, has it. And they're all over eBay. So, or you can order from the comic shops. Yeah, they're all over the place. He's very accessible. And we got a bunch of back issues still, and we got a bunch of stuff. It's easy to get our comics, which is cool.
We should tell them also to come by because we have a new a sketchbook that we'll have for the convention. Forgot about that.
Yeah, it's called Shig Pit. Shig Pit. Here's the title. I'm going to read it to you. It's called not Baltazar. Blind Wolf Studios presents Shig Pit, a collection of secret sketches and stuff from the Blind Wolf Electric Milk Guys by Art and Franco.
That's great.
And it's a free book. You come by and see us, you get stuff free.
All right, I'm definitely there. I'm definitely coming by to see you guys just to thank you for being on the show because fans like we all are and say, hey, these are guys who've made it. We got to let's rally behind them and check out this book. So I'm hoping everyone gets that same thing that I got from this discussion and goes out and buys Tiny Titans and checks out Patrick the Wolf Boy and supports you guys. So
can we mention that we know Bill Tucci?
Yeah, Bill, we know Bill. Yeah, Bill Tucci is a good man. The hardest thing is meeting all these cool artists that we've collected their comics like all our lives. Like when we hang out with and meet George Perez now, the toughest part is not being a geek or big dork over him, you know? Like, oh my God, you're George Perez? No, it's kind of like, hey, what's up, George? Yeah, all right, I'm doing good. Want a burrito? You know?
Or a hot pepper?
Fill up your coffee, sir? You know?
That's awesome.
Stuff like that. That's the hardest thing, is not geeking out.
Because you want to seem cool, because you want to make sure you're cool.
Yeah.
You want to be one of the, and you actually want them to talk to you again.
Yeah, you want him to actually, if you're at a party and you're the only one he knows, you kind of want him to talk to you and not try to find someone else to talk, you know?
There's nothing worse than well, you know what? You'd have a Batgirl-like uncomfortable silence.
Yeah, that's right.
One thing I want to stress about Tiny Titans is the price point. It's $225 cover price for the issue, which is great nowadays because, you know, with the prices of comics rising, this is a book that really you can get at a much cheaper price than the regular comics that you're buying right now. So it's a good book to be able to grab and pick up and try out. So I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Yeah, that was one of our demands. We told DC we wouldn't do the book unless it was under $10. So.
I really like it that it feels like those old comics too, the newsprint feel, where you know, like when you're looking through back issues and you start sneezing after a while. Well, our comic's good because you know it's eventually going to get there. You know, it's eventually going to be that kind of comic that makes you sneeze.
And you can also get the. You're talking about the old comic smell.
Yeah. So it's on that. It feels like an old kid's comic. Like how they were when we were growing up. That's how the whole thing feels, and it's cool.
And you can go out and buy silly putty and make a whole bunch of copies of different pens and stretch them out.
I used to do that. I used to do that.
Oh my God, yeah.
I just did it yesterday.
We're gonna have temporary tattoos too. So it's kind of like having silly putty, but you got to lick your hand or something and stick some tattoos on you.
Wait, Art, yours is temporary?
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Wow.
I tell you not to get it there. It doesn't come up.
My wife said White Starfire. I figured it was a good choice.
All right, I'm already back to, you know what, all of a sudden, I'm into the idea of Trigon and a nun's habit.
Well, luckily, that was the next one I was going to get, but luckily now I don't have to. You're telling me they're temporary.
Well, just put the black dress on the one you got now, and you're good.
I guess so.
Only I got scared.
How much does that laser removal stuff cost?
$2-3.
Oh, all right.
Perhaps more.
You just scratch it with a knife. I was in a tattoo parlor once because I used to draw tattoos for a guy, and he would buy them and stuff, which was cool. But then it was creepy going to his place, and on his wall he had a big machete. It said underneath it was called the eraser. Like, what's that? And then another one next to it was a little tattoo in a frame, and it would look like a shrinky dink. I said, "What's that?" Someone's tattoo. No, what is it? That's the tattoo. It's like, oh, he erased somebody's tattoo. There you go.
Pretty bad if it looked like a shrinky dink too, because my head went right to that image. Little hard plastic character.
It was non-Tiny Titan related, but I thought it was funny.
Plastic.
Well, that reminds me, the girls are going to use Cyborg as an easy bake oven coming up in one of the issues.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
I don't know if that's wrong or if that's okay. I'm not sure, but.
Yeah, but it worked.
I have to see it.
Oh, that's got to be outstanding.
I'll have to see it to comment.
It looked good.
That might get rid of my images in my head right now.
Lagoon Boy is in issue number 6.
Wow.
Lagoon Boy. He's funny.
Lagoon. I like him.
It sounds like you guys, you know, it's really nice hearing you guys talk about down the road, how you're really just thinking beyond and where can we keep going with this and how can we keep, just having fun with this book. It's great to see you guys, looking long term, looking at that longevity and just knowing that this is a book that is going to be around. These are characters and concepts you can get attached to.
Issue number 8, they give report cards. That's all I can say without revealing anything. Whether they're good.
No,
No.
and you know what? Don't, because I want to see it on the page.
Yeah.
But they go into outer space too, right?
Yeah, number 7, they go to space. I got the whole sketch. I got it all. Everything's like written out already. It's kind of cool. We just got to stay ahead of the game. But everything's cool.
How far are you guys into the series so far? I mean, do you have like a template for what you're doing down the road, or do you just like come up with like segments along the way and said, hey, we're gonna want to put this down? How far are you guys planning?
I think altogether we have about maybe 14, 15 issues written, like, plotted out, something like that.
Yeah, we talk on the phone about our stories, and usually I'm drawing and Franco's typing, and he'll send me pages and pages of stories, like plot ideas, and then I'll take those pages, I'll print them out and sit there in my sketchbook and cross out which ones are going to go in which book and stuff. I have, we already talked, maybe we got 8 or 9 pages that are saved in a computer. I only opened the first 2. So we got the first 2 pages, all I opened, and we already wrote like 8 issues with those, just 2 pages.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we still got another 6 or 7 pages to open still, and we're not even done writing. So we got a lot of stuff that as I open a new page, I forget, oh yeah, I remember we talked about this, and then I'll put it in. And even Franco said, like, when issue 1 came out, it was so long ago that we finished it, that he forgot all the jokes that we did. He was like, oh, that was cool. I remember that. That was funny. Like, yeah. Finally made it.
It was like reading it for the first time. I was like, oh, man, yeah, this is a good book. It's awesome.
Yeah. Because, it's cool. And even in the first book, I realized I forgot to put Miss Martian wasn't really in there, but Kid Double was, I think he was in there. But they get more of a presence as the series goes on. A lot of the characters come in and out more often, and new guys come in.
Yeah, things get shifted back and forth, because I remember we talked about, like, one story which you said isn't even going to show up till, like, issue like 10 or 11 or something like that. I remember we wrote that the very first time in that diner. So I remember writing it down in my notebook, but it's not going to show up for like issue 10 or 11. They're kind of plotted out. We get these like little snippets of ideas. If you see us sitting in a restaurant laughing, we're probably talking about the book.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
That is the great thing about the sheer amount of characters you guys have to work with. You can really rotate in and out characters and segments and have them come back again in a new way, but then be really fresh because they haven't been around in a little bit. And that's really kind of the nice thing about the character group that you're working with, is that you've got a lot of opportunity. And having different characters interact with each other in a way that they haven't in a previous issue, because you've got so many of them with diverse personalities, it's really just such a nice palette of characters to pull from.
I really like writing about Tara, because she's just that little bratty kid who throws rocks at everybody. And when they cheer, like, oh, there's that girl who throws rocks, don't talk to her. It's that kind of thing.
Nice.
Now, when do we get to see Tara?
Tara's in issue 2
for this.
Issue number 2. She's coming out next, March 12th, I think it is.
Yes, yeah, absolutely it is. Because I wanted to make sure to get this recording in with you guys so I could release it before March 12th. So anybody who picked up issue 1 could jump on board this conversation, because I knew we were going to go, spoiler heavy with it, where we could really chat about issue 1.
Yeah.
But then, we can kind of just like we just did, just tease issue 2 and just say, go out and grab it.
Yeah.
The second, I've already got it pre-ordered. I can't wait for the Terra issue to come.
Yeah, me too. I got it pre-ordered too. It's awesome. No, actually, I should do. I have it pre-ordered at my comic shop, and I went.
Really?
Yeah, I went in there to buy the first issue at my comic shop, and the guy looks at me and goes, "Dude, man, I can't take money for your own issue, man." So I thought that was pretty cool. He wouldn't let me pay him. I paid for all my other books, but he wouldn't let me pay him for my own book.
Well, that's cool.
How fun is that got to be, though, to go to the comic shop and pick up your own book?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I bought 3 copies.
I would do that. You know what? I would do that too. I'm not. To me, I'm a comic fan. I enjoy reading them, and what the work you guys do, you're doing it for me, because I'm not looking to break into the industry or anything. I am your audience, basically. But if I was in your position where I had the aspirations or the talent to do what you guys do, I would do this. I would do the same thing. Because I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? That's got to be like the coolest thing in the world. Being longtime fans like you guys obviously are, and having gone to the shop yourself to now be able to say, wow, I can grab my book and be able to walk out with my stack of things that I am excited to read.
Yeah.
But also in there is something with my name on it.
Yeah.
That other people can pick up there too. That's great.
The coolest
John,
yeah. Oh, go ahead. So the coolest thing about it was getting the book and opening up and seeing ads for like Batman and the Teen Titans cartoon and Teen Titans Go and stuff like that. Seeing the ads was like the best thing, and the Disney ad on the back page was awesome.
I think that's what kind of cemented.
Oh yeah, for Phineas and Ferb.
Yeah, I think it kind of cemented it for us as being like a real comic, like because we talked that night, and he goes, "Do you see the book?" I'm like, "Yeah, me too." I'm all like, "Opened up, there's an ad for Batman." I'm like, "Yeah, it's real, man. That's cool."
Yeah.
Even if you look at the Johnny DC lineup page in the back too, at Justice League Unlimited, the Cartoon Network Block Party,
Yeah.
the Batman Strike, Scooby Doo, Teen Titans Go, Tiny Titans #1, Legion of the Superheroes. I mean, that's a neat thing.
Yeah.
It's cool. We were sitting on the couch the other night, me and my wife, and a commercial for Justice League New Frontier came on, and I turned to my wife. I'm like, I work for that company. Pretty cool.
And there's a WonderCon ad featuring that in the back of your comic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
So I mean, take it. Let's take it to another level. There was an ad in here about the previewing that at the convention. So how neat is that?
There's a lot of cool stuff going on lately. We had to keep it secret for a year too. That was hurting everybody.
Yeah. We started writing this thing way back in last February. We were all signed up for it, so it was real hard keeping it secret.
Yeah.
When were you guys first allowed to start talking about it?
Last August at Wizard World, August 2007.
Okay, so actually, because we were at that convention, so when you guys were up there talking about the book and talking about the kids' TV show and all that, that was your first opportunity to actually share? Because I felt your enthusiasm there.
It's crazy. It's better than drugs, But the thing is, we kept telling people all weekend was, go to the DC panel Saturday. Go on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Go to the DC panel. And they're like, why? So just go. And when people went that we told, and then later on, they went to our table and said, you guys were on stage. They're like, yeah, I told you, just go. And they couldn't believe that once they announced the kids' books, and then me and Franco come walking up on stage. They're like, what? And I remember getting back after the panel, going back to the table, we were drawn for 3 hours straight with no break. Because people were just,
oh, that's awesome.
And then people were like, we saw you at the panel. What other comics do you make? I'm like, wow, here's a whole table full of stuff that we make, and no one knew who we were, and they never knew we did other comics. So it was kind of cool to see people just picking up everything, and buying everything from us just from hearing what we did.
I remember Jan and Dan were talking about it and saying that they might talk about it in San Diego, do a press release in San Diego, and we were real excited. And then when we got there, I think it was the Friday of that show in San Diego. They said no, we're not. No, was it Friday or Saturday when they told us they weren't going to? Because they were going to push it back for Chicago. Man, we were so bummed. We were like, oh man, now we gotta not tell anybody for another month.
It was like telling your kids that Christmas is really in February this year. You got 2 more months. You gotta wait.
That was really a nice launch, though, in Chicago, because they really laid out a bunch of Johnny DC books, and they just said that, we're really behind this line. We're really going to make it fresh and exciting and throw in some new books there, which is great because I think it's a line that's had some great books, and it's a line that I think needs more attention. So it was great to see that kind of carpet laid out and saying, hey, we're expanding this. We're adding these great books into this line right now, and it's time to get excited about it because, especially with the Shazam book coming out, Super Friends. I mean, you guys there's a nice lineup coming out of Johnny DC.
Yeah, I can't wait for the Shazam book. Looks cool.
The Shazam book looks cool. But I wanted to say, the really cool thing about this whole thing has been in this order. I think number 1, Jan Jones, and number 2, Dan DiDio. I mean, those guys really like what they're doing. And their enthusiasm is really, really up there. I mean, they've been great throughout this whole thing. I mean, even Art can say, I mean, these guys have been just like fantastic, and it's just been such a pleasure because we've never really worked for one of the big companies like this, and to see that was just like awesome. That these guys are great. They're into it and they like what we're doing, and it was just real good reassurance for us.
Yeah, and they're comic fans themselves, especially with Jan. We've known her for probably about 6 years, maybe. She was around when Patch the Wolfboy first started, and what hooked her is she bought the first issue.
Yeah, we didn't know she worked for DC though.
Yeah, we just knew her as the girl who would buy stuff from us. And so she would buy comics and little paintings and stuff. And then we talked to her because, it's a girl buying comics, and that's what comic geeks do. They freak out and just say, there she is. Like when a girl walks into a comic shop, everybody freezes. Uh-oh, is she somebody's girlfriend? That kind of thing. But she would buy comics from us, and then we got to know her just from the comic shows. Then when I got the call out of the blue, it was like, yeah, I know who you are. And then she said, you want to do something for DC? Of course, eventually, yeah. She goes, well, I'm there. I'm an editor. Like, what the? You didn't tell us. You never said, I didn't know that. I said, all the time you were famous?
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool.
That girl that bought this, she bought this painting, and she buys Patrick, and she's about this tall and this color hair. And I'm like, yeah, you're kind of mentioning, like, describing everybody in the Northern Hemisphere. Who are you talking about? Many people, and he goes, no, this girl. I'm like, she works for DC?
Yeah, she was on a website for a long time holding paintings because we put all the people who buy our stuff. We take pictures of them when we sell paintings. So she was on a website, and I go, here she is on her site. She's been up there for 3 years.
That's right, yeah. Oh, man, that's her. Holy cow.
Yeah, so that was cool. That was pretty awesome. That was a great
wrong way. You talk about the wrong way to break into an industry. You're supposed to know who the editors are and hunt them down. We didn't even know it was her.
All I did is answer the phones, That's cool. But it's funny because, like, myself, I know a lot of people at the conventions and a lot of artists and stuff, but I never know what they work on. And I had dinner with a bunch of guys before, and I was hanging out with all the people who draw for all kinds of comics. And I was asking one guy, who are you again? And he goes, well, I worked on I inked the Hulk, and I did this over here. I draw Spider-Man, and I did this Punisher book and this. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, you know me now? I was like, no. He goes, well, what do you read? I said, I read the Hulk. He said, well, my name's in there. I said, I don't buy it because I buy it because the Hulk's in it. That's what I told him. And he goes, then he asked me which issues I read, and I told him, he goes, yeah, I worked on those. I go, oh, they were cool. Thanks. But it's kind of like that kind of thing happens, and I don't know people's names. I don't always recognize them. And I recognize them when I see them, but I don't know who they are. But then when I meet people, it's real weird.
That happened to us that happened to us in Philadelphia last year. We got invited to our first official DC function, and we went to dinner. And we're sitting, next to this guy, and we introduced ourselves. And I didn't really catch his name because there were a lot of people, a lot of things going on. And I said, oh, what do you work on? He goes, oh, I work on Batman and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then like about 20 minutes later, I'm like, holy cow! And he looked at me, he goes, what? I'm like, you're Andy Kubert. He goes, yeah, man, I told you that.
He goes, hey, I'm Art and Franco. Hi, I'm Andy. Oh, hey, how's it going? You here for the dinner? Yeah, okay. Then we started geeking over him.
For like 20 minutes until, like, wait, that's Andy Kubert, I think,
Yeah. It was weird. Yeah, that's true. I had no idea who the guy was.
Well, and it's not like when you're a television star or something like that where you're very visible. In comics, your name's on the book, but unless you've run into somebody at a con where you've seen the name there or you've seen them introduced at a con or something like that, how would you know?
Yeah, unless you buy a magazine with their photo in it,
Right.
But that's it.
I want to thank you both for joining us because this was, this book was a total surprise to me, and I I'm loving these characters, and definitely the comic and comic strip connections and the cartoon animation connections that I made. I can't recommend them highly enough as being definitely Pixar fans should definitely check this out. This is that type of material where it's something that's got something for everybody.
Oh, yeah, man.
Thank you,
That's
sir.
awesome, sir.
And I'm looking forward to meeting both of you in New York.
Yeah.
Just to shake your hands and thank you for this book. So, is there anything else that you guys want me to shout out and make sure that we get out on the show? Is there any websites or content or anything you guys want me to get out there?
Pastor the Wolf Boy working on. We're working on Little Creeps is one of our new books. And Jimmy Dido. And, oh, man, what else are we doing? We've been working on Adventures of the Invisible Man for a while. It's a whole book. He's not even in it. And, a lot of backgrounds and words.
That's awesome.
But I don't know what else.
How everything else is taking a back seat to Tiny Titans because DC called and said, "Hey, we'll pay you to do this," and we're like, "Okay,
yeah, all right."
So everything else is on hold. Yeah,
we're working on another book called Little Bad Wolf Jr. or Little Nasty Wolf Jr. He's the son of the Big Bad Wolf. So that one's all written and ready to go. But I just gotta finish the art and stuff. But yeah, Tiny Titans took over our lives, which is fine.
You know what? This is a great question. How long have you two known each other?
Since 1998.
No, before that, wasn't it? Well, no, yeah, 98, I think. Yeah,
98, yeah. Because I moved out. I used to live in Connecticut for like two or 3 years, and turns out I live like 20 minutes away from Franco, and then we met somewhere in like Northampton or New Hampshire or something like that at a convention. Because we met hours and hours away from our homes, and then we were set up next to each other at the show, and it turned out we only lived 20 minutes away from each other, so it was kind of cool.
Oh, that's awesome. And then did you guys just like immediately start discussing working together on comics?
Yeah, Franco was yelling at somebody because some kid was reading through all his books and criticizing and telling him he can't draw on the comics, the story stuff and everything.
Yeah, you have to understand the show had you ever go to one of those bargain basement shows where only like 2 people show up to buy stuff?
Yeah.
We've got them right around the corner from here. We have one that's it's a really small con that it costs like $2 to get in.
Yeah. It was one of those, and one of the 2 people that was buying stuff, or actually, he didn't buy anything. He just stood there and read every single one of my comics in front of me and proceeded to tell me everything I did wrong or should have done better. And after about 45 minutes, I got real pissed at the guy because I just couldn't take anymore. So I started yelling at him, and that's when Art showed up.
Have you channeled him as a character yet? Because it sounds like he'd make for a great story.
That was pretty good, yeah.
Then we just started working after that. We're like, hey, we should get together and draw. Really, we didn't talk about crossing over anything really, or working together. We should just get together and hang out and draw. And basically, that's what we did. And then he moved away.
Yeah, then we started working more. We worked more with each other when I moved away. Well, I'm from Chicago, and I lived out there for about 2 years, and then I moved back to Chicago. I'm over there now.
New York. Yeah, I live in New York, so we're a whole bunch of hours away from each other.
Yeah, we're like a day and a half apart.
This was really just a great interview. I appreciate you guys coming on and talking about Tiny Titans, and I'm going to cut out some of our extra conversation and put it towards the end of the show because that way when people, our podcast tends to be rather lengthy, and what I do is I put that at the end for the people who want to listen to it, which it'll be. You know what? Usually when it's creators that are on, everyone listens to the stuff at the end because they're interested to hear us joke around more casually like we just did.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's nice because then they get to kind of connect to you as, people outside of the comics, which I think there's a certain point to that as well. Because I think when people make a connection with creators, they tend to support them. And they're like, okay, we know who they are as people, and there's like this human side to them, and like you guys were saying before about how you were sitting at the table and you didn't realize who you were sitting next to. That's the nice thing now about interviews on websites and podcasting and magazines and all that. We didn't have that when we were kids. the chance to get to know our creators that we followed. Now we have such an accessible opportunity to all of you. And thank you guys for reaching out and making this connection with us. Because it's great to be able to get to know you.
Oh, yeah, man.
Oh, that's awesome.
You're rocking the planet right now.
Yeah. Rocking my socks.
You're rocking Michigan, even though you're in Ohio. Michigan fuels your vibe.
Michigan's good for me. They bring snow.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
I want to once again thank Art and Franco for joining us. I want to remind everyone to check out PatrickTheWolfBoy.com, BlindWolfStudios.com, and ArtBaltazar.com. Thanks again for the great interview, guys. Anyway, thank you for the patience on this particular release. We had a snowstorm that was going on here. I had over 17 inches, and this was originally going to be an episode with multi-segments in it, but then as I was doing the editing of it, I didn't want to start chopping down the editing on this because I really felt our guests provided a wonderful interview segment, and it was great to chat with them about their book. I do encourage you to pick up Tiny Titans #1 if you haven't. I want to give a quick shout out to The Vortex, which is a Doctor Who podcast. It looks like they're going to be focusing on Doctor Who, but they're going to kind of go in some other areas too. But it's something that I'm highly interested in. I'm over a 30-year plus fan of Doctor Who and Torchwood and now all those other this is something that's as important to me as basically as comics are. So if you are in any way interested in the current series of Doctor Who, they're going to be taking a look at the current, the past, and a whole bunch of other things, it looks like, too. So I'm really interested in this podcast and seeing what directions they go in, if they're going to be branching out into other sci-fi, and what kind of things they're going to be talking about. Podcasting is such an open field. Don't feel intimidated coming into podcasting. It's one of those things where if you've got something that you want to chat about and you feel like there's nothing out there about it, take a look on iTunes and see how many different varieties of podcasts. It's one of the wonderful things about podcasting is that you can totally customize your listening experience based on your interests. So don't be afraid to jump into this. A lot of shows offer the opportunities to do audio comments too. If you don't want to dive into doing your own podcast, but you just want to get an audio comment on shows, we always are looking for audio comments because it's always fun to kind of jump off other people's. We've got an audio comment actually coming up this weekend where we're going to be talking about All-Star Batman and Robin. One of our listeners sent in an audio comment on that, so we're going to be talking about the most recent issue of that great series and chit-chatting about our thoughts on it, because that's been a roller coaster ride. My personal experience with that book has been a roller coaster ride of issues that I've loved, issues that I haven't been so happy with, mainly because of Batman. It's my connection with Batman on that character has gone up and down. Issue 9 is an interesting... I can't wait to talk about Issue 9, so we're going to be talking about that in our next episode as well. But definitely consider sending in audio comments and participating in that way in our show or other shows if you feel it's not something that's appropriate for our show. But we always welcome audio comments pretty much so in any direction if it's DC or any of the imprint related. So consider sending us in audio comments. And I want to play this trailer right now for The Vortex so that way you can kind of get a vibe for what they're doing. And here's The Vortex.
You tell them, Sammy.
No, you tell them.
All right. We got a new podcast coming out, and it's called The Vortex. What are we going to talk about again?
Well, how about Doctor Who?
I like Doctor Who. I can talk about Doctor Who all day.
And what about Superman 2?
Up in the sky, look! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's Superman!
I love Superman. That'd be great. I guess we'll just talk about everything, all kinds of media, and there may even be a few surprises.
Black Adder, he rides a pitch black steed. Black Adder, he's very bad indeed.
You can find us at thevortex.podbean.com.
Anyway, definitely be sure to check out the Vortex podcast, and I will have a link up to it on RagingBullets.com under this episode 62's show link, so that way you can get right there, along with all of the links I mentioned for Art and Franco, who were wonderful guests, and I thank them again for joining us. Want to remind you guys once again about LibraryBinding.com. We are going to be doing this wonderful experiment with them where they've agreed to give us a free binding so that we can talk about it on the show. We're going to take pictures. We're going to take pictures of it. We're going to share it with you and share a whole experience and happiness with that. This is great if you're into customization. Anybody who's into customization should check out this site because you can completely customize your binding and what it looks like. You can send them in dyes with the certain ways that you want the cover to look and things like that. So take a look at the options that you have for customization. If you want to just do a plain cover with just a title on it and a certain number of issues in there. A lot of times one of the big gripes I have with collected editions is sometimes they leave out 2 or 3 issues that were part of a storyline that I considered important. And to be able to bind those crossovers and those storylines the way that I want to, with the issues where I want them to fall as far as chronologically, is going to be a really neat experience. I have a lot of books that have not been collected yet, as I mentioned in the beginning, that I think are going to be really great for this. So it's something that you definitely might want to consider checking out. I know the Comic Geek Speak forums, they have a thread going where people have pictures of the library bindings that they've already done. So you definitely want to go check out the Comic Geek Speak forum and check out those library bindings and see what people have already done. We will be taking pictures and sharing ours on the website as well as soon as we get it in. So there you go. Next week, as I mentioned, actually not next week, this weekend, as I mentioned, we're going to be back a little bit quicker with a little bit of a shorter episode again. We're going to be focusing on Countdown. We're going to be doing at least issues 16, 15, and 14 of Countdown are going to be on that episode. Depending on what Jim and I can do between now and then, there might be a little bit more on that episode. But we recorded this during the snowstorm, and so I've got a nice segment that's ready there. We're doing a lot of prep right now, as I mentioned, for that big JLA New Frontier segment that we're going to be doing. There's a lot behind the scenes that goes into when you're tackling a DVD and a comic and all that, and you want to make sure that you have a big meaty discussion on it. We've got a lot going on behind the scenes for that, so this is giving us a little bit of wiggle room to get those episodes out to you. So you could get back a little bit more frequently and a little bit shorter episodes just to keep that frequent pacing of Raging Bullets coming in. As always, let us know what you think of these episodes on the forum, and we will see you on Saturday or Sunday this weekend. I'm going to try to get that episode out in Countdown so you can have it out this weekend a little bit quicker, and we will see you then.
Bye!
Sidekick Silly out of This is Sean Whalen from Raging Bullets. I'm here with my co-host Jim and Art.
Oh, yeah, man.
Everybody's there already?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm here.
You guys all started without me? Man.
We were talking already 3 hours.
Man, really? You talked about me, didn't you?
Yeah, we really decided that after we did the interview that there was nothing left to talk about, so we just wanted to tell you thank you for your interest and have a good day.
Oh, you're welcome. And yeah, anytime.
We made up everything.
Oh, good. All right. Well, good. I was going to go, do other stuff anyway. I don't need you people. You people are anyway.
Oh, yeah, man.
You see right now, I don't need none of y'all.
Yeah, we're the ones who look like Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. We look just like them. We try telling people everything, but nobody believes us yet. But it's true. We look just like them, even a little bit better.
I'm still imagining Franco in that Wonder Girl outfit. So you lost me there.
Well, I'll wear it for you in New York if you want.
No, that's okay. You don't have to. Really.
No, I insist. I will.
Hey, I'm still trying to get Trigon and a nun's habit out of my head, so anything you can do to help with that is good for me.
You guys like hot peppers? We could go eat hot peppers after, too.
I like
hot
that.
Peppers and some burritos or burgers or something?
Definitely.
I think this is my first podcast. That's awesome. I love these podcasts.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for coming and joining us, too, because it was really... We've had a lot of interest on our forum to talk about some all-ages material, because we've been around for almost 2 years now in March. Our listening base has grown, and we've got a lot of people who've just been saying, all-ages material, what do you guys think of this stuff? What's coming out that's good? And with the relaunch of Johnny DC, with the new titles that are coming out, we found out that we had the opportunity to get in touch with you guys. I couldn't wait, because this was a title that when you guys were initially talking about its concept back at the cons...
Yeah, they're all the Titans you know and love, but they're just really little. Cool.
Hey, Art, do you think this is a bad time to tell them that this is actually in continuity?
It is. Yeah, I'm sorry, it is, guys. Sorry to disappoint. But this comes after Crisis issue 8, the original one from the 80s. This is right before the Monitor turned anti-monitoring on you. And this is between that time. And it's right after Joe Ralph said, my son. This is right after that.
Start bringing in 0 hour and stuff like that and all this. I'm going to scream.
0 hour. 0 hour negative 15.
Right before Doomsday showed up, too.
Yeah. Right after Punisher War Journal number 7. What? That's something else.
It's the book that bridges between the Marvel and DC universes.
Right. We're going to have him go to a convention one issue too. That's right.
This is going to take place of all that amalgam universe. This is it.
Well, see, now you guys need a panel at the New York Comic Con just to explain how it fits.
Yeah, we do. It's going to be a 4-hour long panel. We could talk. We could talk that long.
Wait, we can record it, Jim. It'd be one of our episodes.
That'd be awesome. And we could have costume changes every half hour or so. So if you stay around long, you might just see all the Tiny Titans on stage.
Our
all different times.
Our podcasts typically run 3.5 hours or so. So.
Oh wow.
So because we tend to cover a lot of topics all the way through, so we do multiple segments. And
plus, we gab like little old ladies sometimes.
If you haven't guessed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. We do too. Here.
Get the coffee pot brewing. I'm good to go for at least 8 hours. You know? People keep putting Tom Cruise all over the place, and I think it's me. I keep buying those books. So I got so many inquirers now stacked up. My wife won't throw them away. Honey, you're all over the place. I go, see, she believes me.
My wife thinks I'm married to Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty awesome. She's all digital now, isn't she? Like animated.
Oh, and Beowulf?
Yeah. She can. Yeah, I didn't see it, but I just rent Gia if I want to see all that.
Well, you know what's great about her being digital? Then you can carry her around on a jump drive.
Oh, that's right. You could upload her on your iPod.
I'm very technologically behind you. The best I can do is Google her.
Yeah. It hurts. Getting Googled hurts. What does iPod mean anyway? Internet? I don't know. May
It's cool, though. Just like podcasts. Podcasts are cool.
Pod.
I'm flattered that you guys that we're your first podcast. I mean, that's really nice that we got a chance to be a part of that. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, sir. I'm just hoping we come out well on a recording radio. I'm always afraid of talking over somebody.
Sidekick silly so you guys are on one track. Jim and I are on another track. So anything that Jim and I say where you guys might have started talking and then you went off and you started telling a story or something, I can take us out of that. So you guys are the only ones heard.
That's pretty cool.
Here,
I should have just kept talking.
I thought we were all on the same track talking about Tiny Titans. I'm all confused. I don't know what's going on.
Actually, no, we are talking about Batman.
I want to be on the left track.
Did I tell you I met Andy Kubert once? He draws Batman.
Well, see, with the magic of editing, you actually are Andy Kubert.
Oh, that's cool. Can I still be Tom Cruise?
I look like Brad Pitt.
Yeah, sure. It's a very special Raging Bullets. We've got Tom Cruise and Andy Kubert on the show talking about Batman. Actually, this is the new introduction, so it's great to meet both of you.
Oh, man.
And we have some talented listeners who could take your picture and put it on the head of Tom Cruise's body if you want.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I can do that.
Yeah.
No, wait. I'd have to be in Chicago.
But I don't want to jump on no one's couch or nothing like that. Actually, that was kind of cool. I'm glad he did that because that made everybody know the guy. If he didn't jump on a couch, no one will care about him, But it's all right.
Because he was a virtual unknown before that.
What are you talking about? Tom Cruise is hot.
I'm jumping on the couch on this radio show right now. What? Are we on? Is it considered a radio show? It's got radio waves, right?
Is it true that podcasts add like 10 pounds when you view them? What?
Yes, very much so. For both of us, it's very true.
And I'm gonna look real fat then when this comes out.
Are you guys fat guys?
Well, I'm a little bit pear-shaped, if you will.
Oh, right on. That's cool.
My wife tells me I am.
I try not to be, but yeah. Well,
You don't want to know what my wife says to me. What?
it's a little hard to
You
control.
and I are in the same category.
It's hard to control the sickness, you know. The sickness and girth got to come under control.
You and I are in the same category. I'm like constantly fighting it.
Yeah.
When you were asking about it being, is it this like a radio show? Basically, like we're recording it on our computer, and it's really kind of like remember the old ham radio, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, except we have the opportunity to reach people from all over the world. So we've got like listeners in England, we've got listeners in Australia, we've got listeners in Singapore. We got listeners all over the place. So it's really nice because we're very fortunate in that we've got about each episode gets about 1,800 to 2,000 listeners.
That's cool.
Wow.
So yeah, but I mean, I'm amazed when people will reveal that they're from other countries. I'm like, how did you find out about us?
Yeah.
We did get one time while we were recording, our mixer, and I don't know how this happened, started picking up the guy across the street's CB radio. So we started talking to him, but he couldn't hear us, but he was having a conversation, so we started jumping in on it because we were recording and we couldn't help it because he was coming through.
Yeah.
I still don't know how it happened, but we're all of a sudden, I'm like, are you hearing that, Jim?
That's pretty cool.
We got some guy talking to somebody.
That's kind of cool because
That's cool.
that's what's happening now.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. Oh, yeah, man. You should get his handle.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe Big Mama.
Yeah.
There you go.
I hate when I think it out loud.
When I was in high school, I missed our SAT. I took the ACT and I'd done well on it. So, I was going to teach and all that, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get into college because, I got my ACT done. I went out with a couple of buddies of mine. This tells you, I'm really immature at this point. We went out driving around all night, and speaking of CB handles, we start talking to some girl on my buddy's CB called Angel Eyes, who was this big trucker.
Yeah.
But why she's talking to us, I don't know. But she was. She started off being very angry at us because we were talking to her at all. But then she talked to us for like 3 hours. So I ended up staying up till like 4 a.m. talking to Angel Eyes when I was supposed to be at the SAT at like 7 o'clock.
Oh, man.
I don't know why I shared that story right now because it really has nothing to do with comics.
That's cool.
It's really weird. When I had a CB way back when, my handle was Angel Eyes, so that's kind of weird.
That's weird.
Was it you? Now you got me back to picturing you in the Wonder Girl outfit again.
I knew it was going to roll back to that eventually, so there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a CB story when we were little kids. I was little, strapped in the back seat, and my dad had the CB in the car, and he says, "Come on, guys, I'll show you how to talk on the CB." And he says, and his name was the Creamer. Okay, right when you name yourself the Creamer, because he used to call the car he had was a fast car with a white top, and we would go so fast that we would cream the other guy. You cream, so that's what we called it. So he would get on he would get on the CB and say, "Hey guys, this is the Creamer. Anybody want to talk to the Creamer?" And then somebody said something real bad. "Hey, you little bleep, 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 you hang up the bleep," and he's swearing at my dad. My dad looks at us in the back seat, and he says, "Put it in your mama." And he hangs up, and then he tells us, "Nobody wants to talk to me today." He turned the CD off. Me and my brother were looking at each other like, whoa.
See, now you know where our sense of humor comes from.
Yeah.
I'm laughing at all this because typically when I do interviews, when I edit it together at the end, I'll take this type of stuff, which is a little outside of talking about your book, and I'll put it at the end of the show in like kind of our blooper reel. And I'm laughing. I'm like, this stuff is going to be so funny at the end of the show. I'm going to be like, they're talking about the Creamer and all this. What is this?
And the Titans character, the Creamer, sells ice cream. He's a dairy creamer. Who said put it in your mouth?
He was from that Earth 53 you mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah. As long as it's pasteurized, it'll be fine.
That's right.
Is this why they put the kibosh on the 53ers, or
Maybe that was it.
the character design for the creamer?
It's kind of like Egghead for Batman, you know?
Yeah, oh yeah, there you go. Anything to bring back Vincent Price.
Yeah, that'd be cool. We could even make Johnny Depp his son in the new movie. What?
There you go.
Are we doing a movie?
Yeah, with Johnny Depp.
Oh, yeah, Johnny Depp's awesome.
He's
Now,
hot.
who would you cast him as?
As Johnny
As
Depp?
Tiny Titan.
I think Johnny Depp played Johnny Depp.
Yeah. He would play
Meeting the Tiny Titans.
Oh, it's Tiny Titans?
Oh, okay.
Morgan Freeman is Robin. And I'd have, let's see, well, I like Danny DeVito a lot.
Have,
Him in there.
I would have Chaz Palminteri be Jericho.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You got to put little Jake Lloyd in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I rode the plane with
If you're
Jake
putting
Lloyd.
Danny DeVito, DeVito in, I would say Aqualad.
Yeah, that'd be good. Jake Lloyd, a cyborg. You know, the kid. Chupa Chavos Balba. Take that. That'd be good.
All right.
Oh, and Michael
Guys,
Keaton. Too. Michael Keaton.
Oh, now who's Michael Keaton going to be?
I don't know. Let's see. Kid Flash would be good. Yeah. Yeah. Kid Flash. I think that's everybody.
You got the whole cast.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I want to thank you guys very much for joining us on the show, and I want to make sure once again to tell everybody about blindwolfstudios.com,
Yeah.
patrickthewolfboy.com,
Yeah.
artbaltazar.com,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and those will be on ragingbullets.com. If you click on the episode 62 show links, you'll have direct connection to those websites, and they'll also be in our show notes. So, listeners, if you haven't checked out those websites, please do. Pick up Patrick the Witch Boy and Tiny Titans.
Wolf.
And
Patrick the Wolf Boy.
what did I say?
You said Witch Boy.
Did I really?
Well, you're probably thinking which one to buy.
The magic of editing.
He's still
up
thinking
Patrick.
about me in a cat uniform.
I am.
I got a blue
Pick
pick
up
right
Patrick
here.
the.
What?
I got a big pointy hat.
Did I really say Patrick the Witch Boy?
Yep.
All right, let's pick up Patrick the Wolf Boy and definitely check out their work.
Oh, yeah.
I want to thank you both.
We have to eat some meat together with sauce.
Yeah. I'm gonna start working out now, so I'm in shape by the time we get there.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, man.
Just as long as you don't wear that outfit.
I got the leg.
I got my green elf shoes on right now.
Just because they're comfy?
Yeah, well, yeah. That's, got to channel Robin somehow.
Actually,
There you go.
That's in his contract from DC. He's got to wear those when he draws.
They sent them to me with the
Really?
paperwork, yeah. There you go. They said, do
This
not
is a
take-
picture of you with a This is a picture of you with a webcam while you're drawing, and then making sure you got on Robin shoes.
They said, do not remove till 2020. So I got to wear them. I got another 12 years left. That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah, Titans.
That was my favorite part at the end of the book. Having had the chance to talk to you guys and knowing that, that's your catchphrase for the book and everything,
Yeah.
seeing that at the end, I was just like, I can feel like you guys are just so excited for the next issue, and that's awesome.
Yeah, somebody says it in every issue. When I get there, it's like Thursday already, and I come back home, it's still next Tuesday.
He's like in a different time zone altogether.
Yeah, and it's summer where I'm at, so it's kind of cool. But, if you just go straight through
That's great.
from New York and just drive through Pennsylvania and Ohio and everything, then it's the same. But if you go the other way,
Well, I'm in Ohio.
oh, are you?
Are you really?
Yeah.
That's cool. I thought you were New York guys.
No, we're both in Ohio.
Oh, cool.
Oh, really? Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah, Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, right
For some
on.
reason, I thought you guys were you were in New Jersey or something like that. But
No, we're both. They're both there. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So you guys got snow too.
We got a lot of snow right now.
Oh yeah.
I work in the snow belt, so it's this is like the best stuff for me because we get those morning phone calls, which I've never been able to grow up because I still get the snow days.
have you? I was going to say, how many snow days have you gotten at school?
We're up to 4 right now.
That's it? Wow.
So, this year it's been strange because the storms have been going to the south, which is, I sound like a meteorologist because I literally, and I love my job. So I don't want to make it sound like I don't like my job or anything. I really love what I do. But who doesn't love a snow day? So I'll be like on my lunch break, and I'll go back to my room and I'll check newsnet5.com and I'll look at the weather satellite and, I'm looking at the National Weather Service's alerts. There's teachers in my building that teach weather that don't know as much about weather as I do.
That's cool.
and it's really sad that I know so much about it, but it's because, like everybody else, I like the little kid in me. I love the snow days because I can stay home and play.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my wife is like, whenever you have a snow day, you just sit around and draw comics all day. I'm like, well, yeah. Don't you want a snow day? We get so excited by them. It's awesome.
But then this is like this symbiotic relationship because then I get to read them.
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
Oh.
If we stop, we'll have nothing to do.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't.
You better hope for more snow days.
Too bad they can't have snow days in summer, That would be awesome.
Wait, it was funny. I said that we need Sundays.
You should add 2 more Sundays during the week.
Yeah, we already get
There you go. Exactly. Yeah.
I get one of those every week.
Yeah. But see, I want a couple extra.
Oh, okay.
I want the same 5 or 6 that I get for winter weather. Because wouldn't it be great? It's too hot to be at school.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, man.
I was going to say, can we talk about the Punisher now?
Well, we've definitely got off on a tangent.